So, as most of you know, I've kind of been resurrecting a lot of the old video types and building up others that I've done on the channel, and while I was doing that, I would get the itch to do another Skylander review, but this time I want to do something different. Instead of talking about a Skylander I like or was just introduced to, I instead want to do something else, a little more dastardly, if you will, and that was talk about a Skylander that I don't really like, or one that just has a rather sour reputation in the community. At first, this video was originally going to be about Sprocket, since everybody flings dirt at her for being pretty useless combat-wise or just outright boring compared to other Skylanders. But while I was searching for her figure, I would stumble across somebody else, and that somebody was Prism Break. To be perfectly honest with you, I've never really liked Prism Break for the longest of times, and if anything, the only aspect of him I really liked was his design. And the last time I made that apparent, it felt like everybody in the comments was telling me that I was wrong, and that Series 2 Prism Break was goated. Now, after that Prism Break video, I didn't really touch on him for a very long time, but I decided that, hey, if I'm going to make a video on a Skylander I dislike, I could at least see if he could redeem himself. So I decided to throw my Lightcore Prism Break onto the portal and upgrade him to get all of his upgrades. And to be honest, I have some thoughts. But before we jump into this, I need to make it clear that I haven't played him in Skylanders Spyro's Adventures or Giants. So this is purely going to be a review for him in Swap Force, Trap Team, and Superchargers only. So without further ado, let's get cracking.
The beam is supreme.
Prism Break as a Skylander is actually one of the original 32 from Spyro's Adventures, and because of that, Prism Break has been through a lot of stuff over the years. He not only has 3 series figures, those being his original, his Series 2, which everybody keeps saying is the good one, and his Series 3, but he also has a Lightcore version, which, hey, look at that, I actually own that one. And just by looking at it, you could tell that it's the best one. Outside of that, Prism Break also has a good chunk of development lore that we know about. He was originally created by Nat Lowe, and actually had his first and secondaries flipped until they were switched around for convenience, and Jesse Moore would be the one who finished his design. Jesse Moore would also work on the math required for his refraction ability and the visual effects for his crystal eruption, and as most of you could probably think, he is far more complex than perceived, so let's actually get into his moves and see what he brings to the table. His first attack is a simple energy beam that causes him to shoot 2 beams from his hands, but they also slow him down and make him hard to turn while moving. You also can't fire this attack forever too, you could only fire it for a short time before it cuts off. And his secondary attack causes him to summon crystal shards, which not only damage enemies on the way down, but allows you to fire your energy beams through them, which can refract into 2 beams. They also last for a pretty decent chunk of time before disappearing, but they are also really fragile for some reason too, and can be destroyed by enemies. Getting into his main upgrades, his first being Super Crystal Shard, causes his crystals to do more damage, while the third upgrade, Emerald Energy Beam, increases the damage of his beams. Chain Refractions, the last upgrade, allowing your beams to pass through multiple crystals at once. And finally, his secondary upgrade, Crystal Eruption, allows him to slam into the ground and shoot spikes up from the ground in all directions. But he is exposed while in his animation, which does last for a short moment after the spikes shoot out. So with that, let's get into both of his upgrade paths, those being Crystalier and Prismancer. And since we're already here, let's go over Prismancer first, since it seems to be the less favored upgrade path, judging by the few comments I got about it. The first upgrade, Golden Diamond Energy Beam, increases the damage of his energy beam, while his second upgrade, Triple Refracted Beam, does what it says on the tin. It refracts 3 beams instead of the original 2. And the third upgrade, Focused Energy, increases the range of his beams. And since that's everything with Prismancer, let's go take a look at his second tree. Massive Crystal Eruption, Crystalier's first upgrade, increases the size and damage of Crystal Eruption, while his secondary upgrade, Triple Crystal Shard, summons 3 crystals instead of 2. And finally, Crystalline Armor increases Prism Break's armor stack, and I know that you are probably thinking that it doesn't increase it by much, but it increases it by 40 points when his base armor is 18. And his max is 48, which means this upgrade almost doubles his armor stat, which is absolutely ludicrous. Interestingly enough, when it comes to most Skylanders, or at least the ones I've covered so far, it's usually pretty obvious on what upgrade path you should take, but surprisingly, both of these paths have their perks and one doesn't look objectively bad. But if I had to choose, I would go with Crystalier. It not only improves your crystal eruptions and shards, but it also makes you far more resilient and 2, which is a net positive to literally everything else except your main attack. And finally, his soul gem upgrade, Shard Soul Prism, causes the crystals to form on defeated enemies, while his Wow Pow, Pulse Power, allows you to send a pulse down your beam while firing it if you press the secondary attack button. Unfortunately for us, I can't really tell you how good his Wow Pow is due to the fact that for some unintelligible reason, his Light Core version, which came out at the same time on the same game as his Series 2, doesn't have a Wow Pow. Probably would have grabbed his Series 2 or 3 and put it on an NFC card or something and then just upgraded it there, but to be completely honest with you guys, I have already spent way too much time just trying to make this one video, so yeah, I'm gonna have to cut some corners here. But I can talk about a lot of the other stuff surrounding him, including why I still don't really like playing as him compared to everyone else. Now, if I just said that Prism Break was a bad Skylander because I personally don't like him, that would be completely disingenuous. I already know that it's just my playstyle and the fact that I never got to experience him in his prime, but I do have solid reasons for not liking him. The main point, at least for me, being the fact that his beams are extremely reliant on his crystals. Like I mentioned before, his primary ability not only makes him walk slower, but it also makes him turn slower as well, and because of that, it is very damn hard to aim his lasers while spamming them out. Not to mention how with smaller enemies like Chompies, especially SWAT Force Chompies, they have the ability to go over enemies. TLDR, every time I use his primary by itself, it feels like Gears Tactics. Even if the enemy is right in their face with no obstructions, that 10% chance of missing still manages to screw you over when you actually need to hit the damn target. And after a little bit of thinking and testing, I think I figured out why his lasers feel so weird. And that's terrain. Now, when it comes to Skylanders who use projectile weapons, most of the time, the projectiles aren't just moving in a straight line. They're hovering above the ground at a certain distance to it as they move. But when it comes to things like, let's say, laser beams, that's when problems start appearing because from what I am guessing, and I need to stress that this is a huge guess, Prism Break isn't trying to figure out where the enemy is, he's trying to figure out where the player is aiming, while other Skylanders just shoot off in a direction and let the physics of their projectile take the wheel. So a lot of the time, instead of actually hitting the target, he tries aiming in a way where the laser stays straight, as shown in this clip, or he tries aiming in a way where he thinks the player wants him to shoot, as shown in this clip, and they can kind of combine in a weird way where he doesn't hit the target at all. Now, I already hear you say, well, this wouldn't really be a problem if you use a secondary, and to be fair, you would be completely right, but that itself also has its own kind of issues. That being that he doesn't have iframes for that attack. Once you press that button, you're locked into Crystal Eruption until the animation finishes. So let's say that, I don't know, a ranged enemy shoots at you from the other side of the map and you spot it too late, there is no way you're getting out of that animation. And even if you do finish the animation, there's still a chance they can hit you because he is relatively slow compared to other Skylanders that may have a move that can either protect them or get them out of dodge. Outside of that 40+ armor upgrade, he doesn't really have a counter against anything. But if there's anything I want to praise him for, it has to be his crystals, because once you get the refraction upgrades, it allows you to do damage to multiple enemies at once, especially if you set them up properly. Their paths also change depending on the angle, and it can be extremely satisfying when you get it just right and nail every enemy around you. The only real problem that the crystals have is how weak they are when enemies could just smash through them, since for me at least, they are the most consistent way of actually doing damage, and plus things get really annoying when your crystals get smashed every 10 seconds or so in an arena battle. But other than that, what are my final thoughts? To be honest, I still don't really enjoy Prism Break that much outside of his design due to the finicky nature of his primary, its heavy reliance on his secondary, and the durability of his third. But when it comes to everything else, he's a decent and rather enjoyable Skylander at times. But with that said and done, this is where I'm going to end things off. But before I go, I would like to briefly apologize to everyone for not covering him in Trap Team or Superchargers. I just ran out of time since during this a chunk of my script just vanished and I had to remake it. But with all of that said and done, I would like to thank you for watching. Like always, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy content like this, share this around so I can grow the channel, leave some comments down below to make the algorithm happy, check out Return to Skylands, its Discord, and a bunch of other stuff that I do down in the description below, and I will see you all in the next one.